The morning mist still clung to the quarantine zone when a delivery truck rumbled to a halt, met immediately by personnel in protective suits, who began meticulously disinfecting the vehicle. When the driver, his face etched with concern, leaned out to ask about the commotion, he was assured it was merely a minor biotech leak and nothing to worry about. Nodding with a semblance of relief, he continued on his route, but his attention was fractured by a ringing phone. In that moment of distraction, the truck jolted violently as it struck something on the deserted road. Stepping out to inspect the damage, he found a deer lying motionless, and after a cursory check, confirmed his vehicle was unharmed. He left the animal behind and drove away. Unseen by him, a terrible twitching began in the deer's broken form as it shuddered back to a grotesque, unnatural life. Meanwhile, in the sterile confines of his Seoul office, fund manager Seok-woo concluded a brisk phone call about liquidating stocks, his eyes absent-mindedly scanning a news headline about mysterious fish die-offs in a local reservoir. The concerns of the wider world felt distant compared to the immediate pressures of his career. This detachment extended to his personal life, as evidenced by a tense call with his ex-wife from his parked car. Their young daughter, Soo-an, wished to take the train to Busan alone for her mother's birthday, a notion Seok-woo firmly resisted. Arriving at the home he shared with his own mother and daughter, he found Soo-an already on the phone, quietly insisting to her mother that she could manage the journey by herself. Hearing her father, she quickly ended the call. That evening, Seok-woo attempted to placate her by presenting an early birthday gift, only to discover with a sinking heart that he had bought her the same video game console she already owned. When he asked what she truly wanted, her soft, heartbreaking reply was simply to see her mother, adding that she would go alone so as not to waste his precious time. Later, his mother gently chided him, urging him to reconnect with his family during what was a crucial period in Soo-an's life, and left him with a video of a school recital he had missed. Watching the recording alone, Seok-woo was pierced by the visible sorrow on his daughter's face, a sight that finally moved him to change his plans. The next morning, as they drove to the station, Seok-woo fumbled for a life lesson from the recital incident, his awkward lecture interrupted when he swerved to avoid a speeding ambulance. Coming to a stop, they witnessed a convoy of military vehicles rushing past, and Soo-an pointed wordlessly to flakes of ash drifting from the sky and the faint, ominous glow of a distant fire reflected in the car window. At Seoul Station, the KTX bullet train to Busan was preparing for departure, its conductor and attendants going through their routines. Among the passengers were a boisterous high school baseball team, two elderly sisters, and a working-class man named Sang-hwa traveling with his pregnant wife, Song-kyung. Just as Seok-woo and Soo-an found their seats, a disheveled and injured young woman dashed aboard seconds before the doors closed. As the train began to move, Soo-an watched from the window in confusion as a man violently attacked a station attendant on the platform. Unrest quickly seeped into the journey. A nervous businessman, Yeon-suk, reported a strange man locked in a bathroom, while the injured stowaway staggered down the aisle, a bloody bite mark on her leg, before collapsing unnoticed. When Soo-an went to find a restroom, she was redirected by the gruff but protective Sang-hwa, who was guarding a door for his wife. It was then that a kindly attendant discovered the stowaway, now convulsing violently on the floor. As Seok-woo awoke from a nap to find his daughter gone and took a frantic call from his assistant about nationwide chaos, the passengers watched news reports of spreading violence on the train's monitors. The situation exploded when the stowaway, now transformed into a snarling, predatory creature, attacked the attendant, and the infection spread like wildfire through the car, consuming the baseball players in a frenzy of blood and terror. A panicked stampede ensued. Seok-woo, frantically searching, finally found Soo-an and clutched her hand, fleeing through the narrow gauntlet of the train as a horde of ravenous zombies gave chase. In the adjoining carriage, Sang-hwa fought to protect his wife, shoving an infected woman into a bathroom before urging Song-kyung to run. They, along with Seok-woo and his daughter, barely made it to the next car, slamming the glass door shut against the pursuing tide. In the sudden, horrifying stillness, they made a critical observation. The creatures ceased their assault when out of sight, seemingly unable to operate the door. By covering the window with newspaper, they created a fragile veil of safety. This temporary refuge was shattered by a phone call from Seok-woo's mother, her voice thick with fear before dissolving into a guttural snarl over the line, a loss he silently absorbed, shielding his daughter from the truth. The train raced past a station overrun with madness, where desperate survivors beat against the windows only to be dragged away, while a government broadcast crackled over the speakers, dismissing the apocalyptic scenes as mere riots and urging calm. Inside their fortified car, the survivors erected a barricade and huddled together, a microcosm of a crumbling society. Here, Seok-woo's instinct for self-preservation clashed with his daughter's inherent compassion when she offered her seat to an elderly stranger. He scolded her, insisting that in such a world, one must look after oneself first, a lesson that hung bitterly in the air, a testament to what survival might now demand. A voice from the conductor crackled through the speakers, announcing they would soon be arriving at a military-secured station, a promise that offered a fragile thread of hope. Yet that thread began to fray when Seok-woo overheard the panicked businessman, Yeon-suk, on a hushed call, learning their destination was conspicuously absent from a list of safe cities. Leaving his daughter with a stern instruction to stay put, Seok-woo moved to the adjacent car to use his own connections, dialing a powerful client as the landscape blurred past. In his absence, Sang-hwa inquired about Soo-an's father, and upon learning he was a fund manager, remarked with a cynical chuckle that such men were professional bloodsuckers, an assessment the girl, to his surprise, quietly agreed with. Seeking to soften the moment, Sang-hwa's pregnant wife, Song-kyung, offered the child candy and gently guided her small hand to feel the life kicking within her belly, a simple gesture of humanity in the gathering dread. On the phone, Seok-woo's contact confirmed his worst fears. Arriving at the station meant mandatory quarantine. train. Pleading his daughter's case, Seok-woo bartered a favor for a lifeline, and the man on the other end relented, instructing him to avoid the main terminal and head for the East Square instead, where his associates would be waiting. As he ended the call, Seok-woo's eyes met those of the homeless man who had been hiding in the car, a silent witness to the desperate negotiation. Soon, the train glided into the eerily silent station, devoid of the promised military presence. Driven by a primal impulse to escape, Yeon-suk shoved his way out first, triggering a frantic exodus of passengers onto the empty platform, including Seok-woo clutching his daughter's hand and the remaining baseball players armed with their bats. While an attendant showed the conductor the horrifying spectacle of the infected carriage, Yeon-suk intercepted them with news that Busan was one of the last sanctuaries, demanding they uncouple the plagued cars. When told it was impossible, a consensus formed to proceed directly to Busan, but the conductor, clinging to duty, insisted on retrieving the scattered passengers first. This humanitarian intent, however, was already colliding with brutal reality. While Seok-woo, following his secret instructions, guided Suan toward a cordoned-off corridor leading to the East Square, the homeless man trailing close behind, having overheard the plan, the main group descended an escalator into the heart of the station. Suan, her conscience troubled, wanted to call the others to safety, but her father, gripped by a newfound survivalist instinct, forbade it. At that moment, Seok-woo sensed the profound wrongness of the stillness, just as a lone figure appeared at the far end of Seok-woo's hallway. The homeless man gave chase, Seok-woo sprinting after him and leaving Suan alone. Below, the escalator delivered the passengers not to salvation, but to a nightmare. The waiting military battalion had been fully transformed, and now a tidal wave of zombies surged toward them. Seok-woo, reacting with lightning speed, hauled his wife onto a stairway as carnage erupted. Seok-woo's phone rang with his contact frantically reporting he'd lost communication, a warning cut short by the sounds of an attack behind the man. In the hallway, the officer was devoured, the homeless man fell scrambling, and Seok-woo turned back just in time to see a zombie lunge for his terrified daughter. It was Seok-woo who intervened, pulling Suan to safety as Song-kyung gathered the girl and they all fled toward a service door, where the surviving baseball players waited to slam it shut behind them. In the chaotic retreat, Seok-woo found himself grappling with an attacker until the homeless man returned the earlier favor, helping him break free. Seok-woo, seeing their plight, held the heavy door open against the pressing horde long enough for Seok-woo to dive through, and together the men fought to secure it. Their race back to the train became a gauntlet of horrors. The station's zombie masses, detecting the movement, began crashing through the high windows, raining down onto the platforms and train roofs. One shattered body landed harmlessly on the elderly Jong-gil, while her sister Song-kyung and Suan were forced down a different path, pursued by a more agile creature. Jong-gil was saved by a quick-thinking attendant and the team's cheerleader, all piling into a carriage just as the doors closed. In another car, Song-kyung and Suan managed to pull the homeless man inside at the last possible second. With zombies now swarming the tracks, Yeon-suk screamed at the attendant to depart immediately, overriding the cheerleader's desperate pleas for her missing friends. As the train began to lurch forward, Seok-woo and Seok-woo, having finally locked their door, saw the glass behind them explode inward. They sprinted for the departing train, witnessing two baseball players fall to the ravenous tide. Seok-woo hauled the last frozen player to his feet and shoved him aboard, then turned to extend a hand to Seok-woo, who lagged behind. Instead of taking it, Seok-woo grabbed a fallen police baton and shield, holding off the pursuing monsters before finally throwing himself onto the moving train. Now separated, the survivors faced new perils. Song-kyung's group found themselves trapped between infected cars, barricading themselves in a tiny toilet as claws scrabbled at the door. Meanwhile, in the forward cars, the cheerleader received a tearful, apologetic call from her boyfriend, the sole surviving player, who was with Seok-woo and Seok-woo. Through a borrowed phone, Suan's voice guided her father to their location, Toilet 13. Forging a plan, the three men prepared to fight their way through 7 carriages of hell. Seok-woo would lead, the young baseball player in the middle, and Seok-woo guarding the rear. Their brutal, desperate battle through the packed, snarling cars was a symphony of violence, culminating in a car filled with their former teammates, where the boy froze in grief-stricken horror. It was the flicker of a tunnel that offered a reprieve. Seok-woo noticed the creatures grew disoriented in the sudden darkness. Using this insight, they employed a phone's ringing as a decoy in the next tunnel, slipping silently past the distracted horde to finally reach the terrified group in the toilet. Reunited but not yet safe, they devised a final gambit to reach the front cars, where the other survivors, including Yeon-suk, had sealed themselves in. Timing their move to the rhythm of the tunnels, they crawled along the luggage racks, Seok-woo creating diversions. But the plan frayed when the homeless man stumbled, and Seok-woo stayed back to help him. Their sprint to the final connecting door was betrayed by the crunch of a soda can underfoot, and though they made it through, Seok-woo became wedged holding the door against a zombie's body. On the other side, the baseball player pounded on the sealed partition to his girlfriend, unaware that Yeon-suk had convinced the others to barricade it permanently. As Seok-woo strained to help Seok-woo, a set of teeth sank deep into the working man's shoulder. They finally shattered the glass, but Yeon-suk physically blocked the survivors from entering. In the ensuing struggle, Seok-woo, knowing his time was ending, roared for them to go. With a final apology and a promise to protect Song-kyung, Seok-woo was forced to retreat as Seok-woo turned to face the oncoming tide, buying their escape with his last moments. Cast into the vestibule by the fearful passengers, the ragged group, Seok-woo, his daughter, Song-kyung, the homeless man, the baseball player, and the cheerleader, watched in horror as the grief-stricken Jong-gil, seeing her infected sister on the other side, opened the door in a moment of tragic mercy, unleashing death upon the very people who had condemned them. The train sped on, its conductor seeing the fires of a falling Busan on the horizon. A call from Seok-woo's assistant revealed the monstrous origin of the outbreak lay with their own company, a final twist of guilt. The journey ended abruptly at a wreckage-strewn blockade. As the conductor went to find a new engine, realization, Yeon-suk and the attendant, having survived the purge, revealed their cowardice anew, Yeon-suk shoving the attendant to the zombies to save himself. A collision with a derailed car split the survivors once more. In the chaos, Yeon-suk sacrificed the cheerleader to save his own skin, leaving her boyfriend to witness her turning and receive a fatal bite of love. Seok-woo, Soo-won, Song-kyung, and the homeless man found themselves trapped beneath an overturned carriage. As zombies pressed in, the homeless man made his stand, holding them back so the others could escape through a gap Seok-woo pried open, sacrificing himself without a word. The three survivors chased down the new engine the conductor had procured, fighting off zombies clinging to its sides. In the cab, they found not the conductor, but a feverish, partially transformed Yeon-suk. In a final vicious struggle, Yeon-suk bit Seok-woo before being hurled from the train. Feeling the infection take hold, Seok-woo guided Song-kyung to the controls, gave his weeping daughter a last look of love, and chained himself outside the cabin. With the memory of her birth filling his mind, he let himself fall away into the rushing darkness. The train, carrying the last two survivors, soon met another blockade. Song-kyung and Soo-won walked hand in hand through the rubble and into a long, dark tunnel. On the far side, a military sniper's laser settled on them, an officer's order to fire hanging in the air. Then, pure and clear, Soo-won's voice rose in the song from her school recital. The melody pierced the silence, a definitive proof of life, and the soldiers' report crackled over the radio. Survivors were approaching.